Good day everyone, my name is Alisa Badillo and together with my group mates Ms. Austria, Ms. Katipunan, Mr. Edelior, and Mr. Kimbao, we are going to report all about the surface coating industry.
So, surface coatings are substances that are products of mixtures of film-forming materials, pigments, and solvents that are used in surfaces for many different purposes. Surface coatings are comprised of interconnected molecules that allow the formation of a product that is flexible, adhesive, and tough when applied to surfaces. One of the common surface coatings, which is paint, is usually used for aesthetic and decorative purposes. But the main purpose of surface coatings is to protect the surface from environmental factors such as rain and heat. Other surface coatings such as epoxy coatings strengthens the surface material and protects them from corrosion. Some coatings that are applied to cars are also utilized so that the paint of your car would not fade because of the UV rays of the sun. So paints and other surface coatings have existed even before then. Primitive people and cave dwellers utilized paints or other surface coatings to create drawings, but the pigments used back then is usually produced by mixing eggs, animal fats, and sap. But in 3000 BC, advancements in the paint-making industry could be observed, since a wide range of colors were utilized by the Egyptians. Because of Egyptians, preservative paints and varnishes were developed. In 600 BC up to 400 AD, varnish production was popularized since it is discovered that heating amber produces varnish, which could be used to protect paintings that are applied on wood. 100 years have passed and the paint-making processes have been passed through generations. But because of the lack of technology as compared to the modern era, paints and other surface coatings are generally expensive because of the high production costs. It is just until the 19th century that the first paint and varnish factories were established, primarily because of the Industrial Revolution. Anti-corrosive coatings and other special purpose surface coatings emerged in this time. Titanium dioxide, which will replace white lead, was introduced in 1918, and synthetic resins were used instead of natural oils. So in the modern era where environment protection and physiochemical properties of particles are being researched, government regulations enable the surface coating industry to push environmentally friendly products to reduce harm to the environment and its consumers. Thus, water-based coatings are getting common throughout the modern era.
In this part, I'll be discussing the major companies that are known in the surface coating industry. First, let us identify international companies in the said industry. First, we have Sherwin-Williams Company. Sherwin-Williams Company is a paint and coatings manufacturing corporation. So, paints, coatings, floor coverings, and other related products are manufactured, distributed, and sold to professional, industrial, commercial, and retail customers primarily in North and South America and Europe. Sherwin-Williams produces products under well-known brands such as Sherwin-Williams, Valspar, HGTV, Home by Sherwin-Williams, Dutch Boy, and Krylon. Next, you have Flame Off Coatings. Flame Off Coatings Company specializes in offering unique fire-resistant coatings or fire-retardant coatings that have been proved to survive tremendous temperature and fire for more than 2 hours. These products are applied as paints and are water-based and non-toxic and have been thoroughly tested and authorized for use in a wide range of building and transportation assemblies. Some of their products include Fire Barrier Paint and FR Clear. Another international company that is known in the industry is Hexion. Hexion is a chemical manufacturer that specializes in thermoset resins and related technologies. It is one of the most popular epoxy resins maker and handles concerns on a regular basis to help build the future. The corporation has coined the phrase responsible chemistry to describe its operations. Their coating products can be applied in different industries like aerospace, wood appliances, protective, marine, and shipping containers. Now, let us identify local companies that distributes and produces products under the surface coating industry in the Philippines. First, we have Pacific Paint Poison Philippines. I think we're all familiar with this company. So, under the trade name Columbus, Poison was founded in the year 1953 as a repacker of paints and lacquer thinners. With the introduction of Nation House paints, a budget grade paint, in the year 1958, the company expanded its operation and began paint manufacturing. The company is the country's major paint company, serving local and worldwide markets with architectural paints and building chemicals. Their products include acrylic water-based paint, water-based coating, enamel or oil-based paintings, epoxy-based coatings, and polyurethane-based coatings. Subsequently, we have Treasure Island Industrial Corporation. This company is one of the most dynamic participants in the construction business, which offers a diverse product line led by its flagship brand, Island Premium Paints. The company is known for its broad selection of high-quality coating solutions, which includes anything from ornamental paints to protective coatings to chemicals and coating agents. We also have Davis Paint Philippines, which started its operation under the company name Charter Chemical and Coatings Corporation. Over the years, Davis has continuously innovated and produced pioneering products such as BioFresh Plus, which is the first local odorless and antibacterial paint, Clean Air, the first anti-formaldehyde paint, and Aqua Glossette, the first water-based quick-drying enamel paint, all first in their respective categories in the country.
For the next part, some of the common products of surface coating and their respective functions will be discussed. Generally, the products of this industry are classified into two main categories, which are the organic and inorganic coatings. First, the organic coatings contain carbon and are composed mostly of organic compounds that are known to be modified petroleum products. Commonly, they are seen as paints or powders, and when applying these type on surfaces, several layers of coatings are required for them to fully function as a protective layer. On the other hand, inorganic coatings are composed mostly of silicates, metals, and enamels. These have a much higher efficiency and protection even at single layers, as they possess strong chemical bonds with base metals. With minimal thickness, they can greatly resist environmental changes and degradation. Moving on to some example products of each category, epoxy coatings are considered under organic as they are composed of epoxy resins and polyamine hardeners. The protective layer are due to the cross-linking of compounds during curing, and they appear to be a durable and rigid plastic coating. The mechanical properties are as enumerated, which are the hardness, durability, resistances in impact, and as well in chemical and abrasive changes. And due to these characteristics, they are commonly used on infrastructures in the automotive industry, such as floorings and surfaces of facilities. Another organic coating is the polyurethane, that is composed of carbamates and has a similar glossiness with epoxy, but its transparency can be easily altered depending on the mixture upon manufacturing. The properties are quite similar, but they are much more softer and more elastic compared to epoxy, thus being more effective in resisting dents or scratches. They are commonly used in the commercial and automotive industries as well. The specific water-based type of polyurethane is known to be non-flammable that can be utilized when combustion processes are being conducted. Under inorganic coatings, ceramic is also known as glass, silica, or hydrophobic coating. It is composed of liquid polymers and is less stable or only considered as semi-permanent than the other types. Its properties mostly consists of resistances on contamination and thermal changes. Compared to the others, this type is non-flammable and easy to clean since it is hydrophobic or insoluble in water. This is utilized in automotive industries as well as in architectures and in marine industry. And lastly, under also the inorganic category, for coatings that are greatly meant for resisting fires, the intumescent coating is used as it is a retardant that reacts with heat. As heat is applied on the coating, its layer increases volume or it swells, which serve as the insulating material for protection. There are two classifications of intumescent, those with hydrates creating a soft, thick layer that releases water vapor, and those with sodium silicates producing a hard, thick layer that stops fire. These are commonly applied on alloys and steels of infrastructures, coastal buildings, and ships. And these are some of the commonly used products in the surface coating industry.
Surface coatings involves various products that are essential both in household and industrial uses. With this, I present some flow diagrams for the manufacturing process of certain surface coating products. Firstly, we have the paints. Of course, there are various types of paints. Nonetheless, there is a general step in the creation of the surface coating. Dry pigments are weighed, mixed, and fed through hoppers or chutes into mills where they are dispersed in an appropriate resin vehicle. The milled pigment is then transferred to a mixer where thinners, drying agents, and the others may be added to adjust its consistency, viscosity, color, and drying time. When mixing is complete, the paint is then filtered through a filter cloth and packed into containers, ready for distribution. Moreover, we have the varnish coating. Varnish is an unpigmented resinous surface coating. In traditional varnish manufacture, an open kettle is set over a fire in which copal or other natural gem is heated and dissolved in hot oil. Other ingredients such as dryers are added after cooling the varnish to a workable consistency with a solvent. It is then clarified by gravity settling, straining, or centrifugation. Modern manufacture takes place in a jacketed enclosed kettles. The decomposition products of resin and oil released as fumes are removed through an exhaust system where the flames are scrubbed by jets of water spray. The fume oil is separated from the water by decantation and the water is recirculated. Next, we have the epoxy resin coating. In this process, epichlorohydrin and bisphenol A as respective raw materials are fed into the reaction vessel. These are melted and undergo the first stage reaction with temperature maintained constant. In this first stage reaction, which is exothermic, epoxy radical is separated from the epichlorohydrin to be attached to hydroxyl radical, thus producing chlorohydrin ether. In the second stage reaction, the produced chlorohydrin ether causes a declaration reaction to occur in the presence of NaOH, producing a terminal epoxy radical. The monoglycidyl ether of bisphenol A produced as a result continues to react with bisphenol A and epichlorohydrin and gradually forms a high polymer. On completion of polymerization, the polymer is transferred through a storage tank to the epichlorohydrin separator evaporator, where epichlorohydrin is separated under vacuum. Methylisobutyl ketone is used to eliminate NaCl and the reaction byproduct by the difference in specific gravity with its acidity adjusted. The polymer with adjusted acidity is then evaporated under vacuum in the methylisobutyl ketone recovery process to eliminate the MIBK, thus obtaining epoxy product. The raw materials and reactions to be conducted for the production of epoxy resin are organic in nature and needs to be conducted in a properly controlled and closed system. This will be performed during the selection of technology. The waste to be generated will be collected and treated to avoid pollution of the environment.
In this part, we will be tackling some specific statistics surrounding the surface coating industry. Now, the figure that you see here is the 2016 projection by Grandview Research on the growth of the hydrophobic coating market size. Now, the hydrophobic coating market size is a subset of the surface coating industry, which centers itself on hydrophobic coatings. Now, these include anti-corrosion, self-cleaning, antimicrobial, anti-fouling, anti-icing or wetting, and others which use coatings which are hydrophobic. Now, remember that these projected values did not yet consider the COVID-19 pandemic. So you will see here a steady rise of the market revenue, the market values of the hydrophobic coating industry. Now let us account for the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the surface coatings industry, particularly in paints and coatings. Now, the figure on the left is a revenue share of the industries which utilize or are part of the paints and coatings market, while the one on the right is a detailed map on which regions of the world would experience a greater growth rate in the paints and coatings market in the years 2021 to 2026. Now, the paints and coatings market was valued at around $162 billion in 2020, and it's projected to increase by around 3% during 2021 in 2026. But the first half of 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively affected these industries such as in the automotive, architecture, transportation, and in packaging. Focusing our attention on the figure on the left, we see here that the architectural industry has the largest market revenue share of the paints and coatings market. It's at around 45%. It's then followed by general industries, the automotive industry, and the protective coatings market. Now, the figure on the right is a world map on which parts of the world would experience the greatest growth rate in the paints and coatings market. You see here that there is a significantly darker hue in the Asia-Pacific region, in regions like China, the Philippines, Japan, Australia, and it's projected that the greatest development, the greatest growth in market would be experienced in this Asia-Pacific region. Zooming in on the Asia-Pacific region, as it is that region wherein there is a great expectation of growth in the paints and coatings market, we see here two figures. The one on the right is a figure which describes the percent revenue by technology of the paints and coatings market in the Asia-Pacific, and the one on the right is the percent revenue of the paints and coatings market by country. Now, in the Asia-Pacific region, the paints and coatings market was estimated at around $60 billion in 2020, and is projected to increase by 5% during the projected period of 2021 to 2026. As is the case with the whole world, the market was negatively affected due to COVID-19 as countries implemented lockdowns and industries stagnated. However, there is a projection that this industry would recover in 2021. In terms of the technologies being used, waterborne technologies, waterborne paints, waterborne coatings is the fastest growing technology in the overall paints and coatings market. This may be due to the fact that this is solvent-free, it's eco-friendly, and it has less amounts of volatile organic compounds which degrade the environment. Focusing our attention on the graph on the left is the paints and coatings market percent revenue by technology. Now, this technology pertains to the method by which the paints and coatings are being applied to automobiles, to buildings, and to other industries which need the paints and coatings. You can see here that solvent-based paints and coatings still dominate the industry, but it is then steadily followed by waterborne, which is, as stipulated before, seeing an overall rise in technology. This is followed by powdered paints and coatings, and then finally by UV cured. Going to the figure on the right, we see here the percent market revenue by country in the Asia Pacific. Now, the statistics regarding the paints and coatings industry and the surface coating industry in general are very limited. So this is what is actually available. But the largest slice within this chart pertains to China. So it means that China still has the largest producer of the paints and coatings market. But we will try to zoom in to the Southeast Asian countries which also made the list. You have here Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Singapore. Now, these small countries being here on the chart which represents the percentage revenue of the paints and coatings market in the Asia Pacific, this is an indicator that the surface coatings, the paints and coatings market within Southeast Asian countries is very competitive, and it can compete with giants such as China, Japan, and Korea. But since China is very big and it has a lot of resources, it has a lot of resources, and it's one of the biggest economies, it easily dominates the production of the paints and coatings within that region. So that is the end of this part.
That is the work of Group 1. Thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, just drop it in our discussion board.